Doctor Who's The Great Intelligence, in my opinion, is one of Doctor Who's best and most underrated villains. The Great Intelligence not only spans classic Who, but also new Who and expanded media. And in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at who and what is the Great Intelligence. The Great Intelligence was an aspect of Sanyata. I probably definitely butchered that. For people wondering what this is, it was an interdimensional being that resided within the void, existing in many realities, but always ending up as the Great Intelligence, and sharing the same basic attributes, although the intelligence is orientated in various ways, including an immortal soul and various great old ones. Of course, a lot of this comes from expanded media, so please take all of this with a pinch of salt. The show can retcon this whenever it likes. We've seen this most recently with Sutek. Doctor Who canon is whatever you want Doctor Who canon to be. It's Doctor Who at the end of the day. According to one account, the intelligence had been exiled from another dimension and was forced to wander the universe to find a body to possess. Indeed, according to its distorted memories, the intelligence had been in existence for centuries without a form. It is nonetheless sought to collect other minds into its consciousness. Like I said, with this being expanded media, there is in fact several origins for the Great Intelligence. One claims that it was something that traveled through a parallel universe. Another account claimed that the Great Intelligence was the ascended immortal soul which began life as James Lethbridge Stewart and ended millennia later as something completely different. When it comes down to something like this, where there are several origins for one character, you, the viewer, especially when it's really confusing, have to take what you want from it. At some point in the 18th century, the Great Intelligence possessed a Tibetan Lama while it was traveling the asteroidal plane and forced him to build its robo Yeti over the next 2 centuries. And according to one account, this is when it got the name the Great Intelligence. At the Dead Sen Monastery in 1935, the Second Doctor and Edward Travers, a Westerner determined to find the Yeti, intervened with the Intelligence plans to take the mountain the monastery stood on. The Intelligence knew of the Doctor and described him as a man of great knowledge and intelligence. They destroyed the pyramids that controlled its Yeti, and the Intelligence's physical body melted away. Approximately 40 years after this event, the Yeti reactivated, and the Intelligence manifested as webbing. It ensnared the TARDIS in space and forced it to land in the London Underground. Reunited with the Travers, the Doctor assisted British military in their battles with the Yeti. The Intelligence reanimated and possessed the corpse of Staff Sergeant Arnold, using him to track the Doctor's actions. The Intelligence captured the Doctor and tried to use the conversion headset to take over the Doctor's body. The Doctor attempted to reverse the process, allowing him to absorb the Intelligence and destroy it. When the control spheres that formed the focus of the Intelligence was smashed by Jamie McCrimmon, the Intelligence vanished, powerless but still alive, though blinded in unending darkness. In the following October after that event, the Intelligence followed Lethbridge Stewart, Sally Wright, where it attempted to use Yeti and infected rats to turn the population of the city into a vast computer. Aided by Edward Travers, the three successfully repelled the invasion. The Intelligence was still around a couple of years after the quote-unquote London event and controlled Norma Vine. It was trapped on Earth because of his link to Travers. It sent Norma around London to find pieces of the equipment for a machine. Travers tried to communicate with it and overtook its mind. But the Intelligence's plan during this time was once again foiled, and he was still bound to Earth. In the 1980s, the Great Intelligence again tried to use the Yetis in Tibet to no avail. Later on, the Intelligence, possessing the mind of a now deceased Professor Travers, later contacted the Doctor's former companion Victoria and manipulated her into using computers to return to physical existence in 1995. The Great Intelligence attempted to cover the Earth in web. When the generators to the New World University were destroyed, the main bulk of the Intelligence faded away. This was from a home video Downtime, which some people don't consider canon and some people do. Again, that is just left down to your interpretation. Going back to the Doctor, the 7th Doctor also encountered the Great Intelligence during their travels in the Black TARDIS. In 1999, Anne Travers, who had been left traumatized by the Intelligence's first attempts to enter the universe, believed millionaire Ashley Chappell would try to use a special program, the Millennium Codex, to summon the Intelligence to Earth. She prepared a counterspell to force it back to its own reality. However, this had destructive effects, including dragging the Intelligence back to Earth and merging it with a benevolent god into a signal malevolent being. It altered reality around London to form the Great Kingdom, a realm partly obeying the laws of the Intelligence's universe, N-Space. Here, the Doctor's TARDIS was worshipped as the Lady TARDIS, and the Intelligence was worshipped as the key and the guardian of the gate. Here, Anne sacrificed herself to fix reality, but instead of destroying the Intelligence, she banished it. The Intelligence became stranded on the edge of the universe, riding the blue shift outwards into infinity. With its memory now gone, the Intelligence soon found itself on Earth in the year 1842, where it manifested as living snow, and used Walter Simeon as a tool in its scheme. Simeon's dark thoughts powered it, Simeon had, as the Doctor put it, poured his darkest dreams into a Snowman. Simeon established the Great Intelligence Institute. In 1892, its presence was sufficient enough to consume mankind, having erased Simeon's mind and memories from after meeting the Intelligence. The 11th Doctor was surprised to see the Intelligence survive. He had thought that it had been created by the host Simeon, but discovered that it had learned to survive beyond physical form, becoming the dream that outlived the dreamer. Controlling the now mindless Simeon, the Intelligence attacked the Doctor. But this was stopped in the last minutes of Christmas Eve, when the snow changed to rain, mimicking the form of the tears of Captain Latimer's family after Clara Oswald's death. The Intelligence did not totally perish, and in fact learned to survive beyond physical form, using Simeon as an avatar. At some point in the late 20th century, while Rosemary Kisler was still a young girl, the Great Intelligence began to whisper in her ear, leading her to eventually found her company by 2013. The Great Intelligence had influenced Miss Kisler to establish an organisation based on the 65th floor of the Shard, which used the Wi-Fi and servants nicknamed Spoonheads to capture human minds. The Great Intelligence used the internet as its quote-unquote web. During this time, the Great Intelligence accessed information hidden by governments and militaries, and learned about the many times that it had been encountered by humans and defeated by various incarnations of the Doctor, learning everything that it could about the Time Lord, and rediscovering the extent of its own influence on the corporal plane. Its operation fell apart when the 11th Doctor used a captured Spoonhead to trick Miss Kisler into being trapped in the Wi-Fi after she refused to release the uploaded Clara Oswald, who was under the Doctor's protection. The workers downloaded Clara, Kisler, and others captured in the server, returning them to their bodies. When Unit arrived at the Shard, the Great Intelligence ordered Kisler to restore their employees to their factory settings, effectively erasing everyone's mind to avoid detection. Extremely later on, after the Siege of Trenzalore, in a later reverted timeline, the Intelligence used the Whisper Men to kidnap Madame Vastra, Strax, and Jenny from 1893 to Trenzalore. It spoke through Confidence Call link with Clara and River Song to take the Doctor from 2013 London to Trenzalore. The Whisper Men brought the Paternoster gang to the Doctor's tomb on Trenzalore so the Intelligence could have its ultimate revenge by turning all the Doctor's victories into defeats. It did so by directly entering the Doctor's time stream, which appeared as an open wound in reality inside the tomb. However, this plan was foiled by Clara, who followed the Intelligence through the wound. Just as he was, she ripped into countless versions of herself throughout history, including the one that had helped the Doctor defeat the Intelligence in Simeon in 1892, and saved the Doctor countless times, undoing the damage the Intelligence had done to his timeline. Each defeat severely weakened the Great Intelligence further and further, with the entity finding Clara thwarting its plans wherever it went. After interfering with countless points in the Doctor's timeline, the Intelligence returned to the London event, where another encounter with Clara and the Second Doctor's attempt to destroy the younger Intelligence severely damaged it, forcing the Intelligence to leave the Doctor's time stream. Realising that Clara would be waiting at every turn to defeat it, the weakened Intelligence travelled down the timeline of Alistair Lethbridge Stewart, instead intending to kill the Doctor's greatest ally. After one failed attempt, the Intelligence had arrived in 1937 and found itself drawn instead to Alistair's brother James, who carried the original soul which would, centuries later, be reincarnated as the being who would become the Great Intelligence. Its curiosity drew itself to join with James, but it then found out that it could not remove itself from its own soul. After manipulating James into self-ending, the Intelligence became trapped inside a manor in Cornwall. Weakened further by its attempt to coexist with its younger self, as Gordon's brother and mother left, the Intelligence managed to rob them of their memories of Gordon as a kind of victory and leaving a trace of itself with Mary. Several weeks after the original London event, there was another showdown with the Great Intelligence, which it ultimately lost. Interestingly, the Intelligence's avatar was ripped apart, its control spheres and Robo-Yeti exploded, and the Great Intelligence faded away, finally dying. In death, the Intelligence finally found the true peace that it had spent centuries seeking through the unity of consciousness. Before the Intelligence was killed, Lethbridge Stewart got a brief glimpse of his future, living with the knowledge that there were still other threats out there, that while the Great Intelligence from the future had met its final end, its younger self that attacked London was still out there and would one day return. Now that was the Great Intelligence's entire history, aside from the other alternate realities. I personally really enjoyed the Great Intelligence's character, and I think it has probably one of the best flushed out histories, especially with expanded media. It's pretty coherent, and it's pretty easy to follow as well for Doctor Who expanded media standards. But what do you think? Please comment down below. But I've been your host Samuel, and I will catch you in the next video. Subscribe!